This is M. Carter Pierce, and you're watching the bonus reel. Since the election of Zoran Mamdani in New York City as the mayor-elect, Donald Trump and his cohorts have been throwing around a lot of nonsense. And unfortunately, some of the names that they're using and what they're calling him, people don't really understand because they don't teach political science or government or history, social studies. They don't teach those things like they used to in the schools anymore. So, what I want to do this morning on the bonus reel is to give you a quick breakdown of the different political systems so that when you hear these words used, you know what they mean, and further, why certain people use them and what their end game is. Let's start with capitalism, okay, because that's the system that's currently being employed in the United States. Capitalism is a system where production, meaning the making of goods, etc., is owned by private persons and corporations for profit. Okay? For profit. Now, the thing about that is it creates classes. Okay? Because, for example, you have Jeff Bezos, the old great American story, right? Where he started out selling books out of his garage online. And now he's one of the wealthiest men in the world. He's even got his own spaceship, for Christ's sake. See, the problem with human nature is that we don't know when to stop. We don't know when to slow it down. Okay. And the bottom line is, while he thinks his goods are affordable, it's all about profit. He sells cheap goods that are made in China or Mexico, whatever. I don't care where he gets them from. But the point is, you're buying them for cents on the dollar, but you're selling them for a lot of money, for full price, just to make profit so you can buy or build more spaceships or buy more yachts. That's the problem with capitalism. And now Jeff Bezos is in a class, unlike the rest of us Americans, the majority of Americans, who are suffering and holding their heads as they're doing their bills at the kitchen table and trying to figure out how they're going to make ends meet, even if they're working 1, 2, and 3 jobs. That's capitalism. Then you have communism. This is a term that I've heard Trump use over and over and over again when it comes to Mamdani. Mamdani is not a communist. So let's talk about what communism is. The ideology of communism is that the community owns everything, right? The community owns all means of production and then gives out to those as needed, okay? So the community comes together, they have a farm, and then they distribute the goods to, say, the widows and children first, and then the farmer second. The problem is that it's normally a single-party government that runs communism. And when you have that, there's no democracy, and also there's no rights. No democracy, no rights. It's that simple. No democracy, no rights. Your prime examples of communism was the USSR, or the Soviet Union of late, and Cuba, for example, under the reign of Fidel Castro. And of course, Brezhnev, Lenin, those are some of your big, Khrushchev, those were some of your big communists. So there's no democracy. And again, you know, it's a single party. There's only one political party. Now let's talk about socialism, because this is the 8,000-pound elephant in the room. The one that's standing next to the 9,000-pound elephant of Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump's house. You have socialism isn't just one thing. There are 2 kinds of socialism. 2. The first one is what's called state socialism. And in state socialism, the idea is that the government completely and totally owns all of the production. It's not owned by a person. It's not owned by a corporation. It's not owned by the people. It's owned by the government. And usually in state socialism, it's not democratic. There's only one political party, and the government decides who gets what. The government, because they own the product. They own everything from the paper plates to the food to toilet paper. They, not to mention, I want to go a little further, not to mention just products rather, production, but I'm also talking about utilities, gas, electric, water. That's part of it also. Your prime examples of that are North Korea, Kim Jong-un, or Kim Jong-il, Kim Jong-un. I get them confused, Kim Jong-un, and in Russia, Vladimir Putin. They are state socialists. They call themselves elections, but the bottom line is the fix is in. Vladimir Putin is known to kill his opponents as he did the last time. The government owns all production. I remember about 15 years ago seeing a video where Putin walked into this warehouse and he came in with a group of thugs and they basically said, we're taking over your warehouse. And if you can't run it, we run it for you. And he gave him a pen and told him, you signed this paper. And the guy did because he knew what would happen if he didn't. And then he tried to keep Putin's pen and Putin said, give me back my pen. And that was it. Okay. That is state socialism. State socialism. See, when you hear people like Donald Trump and the Republican Party talking about socialists and socialism, I want you to understand what you are hearing, because they're trying to draw the comparison that socialism belongs to people like Putin and Kim Jong-un or Viktor Orban in Hungary. But there's two kinds of socialism. So let me introduce you to the second type of socialism. That is called democratic socialism. And in democratic socialism, the main idea behind that ideology is that the government and the public are 50-50 partners in production and producing everything from toilet paper and paper towels to food, to utilities, gas, water, and electricity, cable, phone. The government and the people are 50-50 partners. This ensures that you don't create another Jeff Bezos. It controls CEO salaries so they don't get out of hand. They're treated fairly. They make their profit, but they don't go off the rails and have spaceships, private spaceships. At the same time, it also ensures that taxes are paid properly. And those taxes that are paid not only run the government, but they also fund the social safety net. What is the social safety net? Well, here we call it SNAP, Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, and the associated varying programs that go along with it, like WIC or Section 8. Democratic socialism is practiced by what's called the Nordic model. Now, let me make something known to you. We are the largest economy in the world here in the United States. We are the largest economy, but we're not the best economy. That title, we're actually around the 22nd, somewhere between the 22nd and the 25th in the world. The best economy in the world, belongs to the Nordic model. It's 5 countries. I'm just trying to remember here. Um, Iceland, Finland, Denmark, Norway, Sweden. Iceland, Finland, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. They have the best economy in the world, and they use, and if you don't believe me, look it up for yourself. Look up the Nordic model. They are democratic socialists. Let me give you some examples. Okay. Where in the United States, a Burger King worker just starting out may make $11 an hour. In Norway, they're starting, which is $11 an hour translates to roughly $22,210 a year, somewhere in that neighborhood. Okay. Whereas in Norway, a Burger King worker starting out earns $54,000 a year. Let me say that again. A Burger King employee just starting out in Norway is making $54,000 a year. 4 weeks vacation for everyone. I worked for a company a long time ago that was based out of Canada. And in Canada, the warehouse would shut down for the entire month of August because they learned that it takes 2 good weeks just to decompress before you can start to relax after a whole year of work, 11 months of work. Which brings me to the next thing, universal health care. And the people are healthier because they're making money, they're living well, their rents are controlled, it's not going out crazy like it is here in this capitalist world. People are living longer and healthier lives there. Free education, including higher education in private school, in public schools. You go to a public university for free. The jails, empty. Because when the people are taken care of, there is no crime. Or very little. I won't say there is no crime, but there's very little crime. Very little crime. And just so you know, do you remember the Bernie Bros back in 2015? Remember them? Bernie Sanders? Senator Bernie Sanders, you know him? He's a democratic socialist. That's why he runs as an independent. In the House of Representatives, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, is a democratic socialist. Summer Lee is a democratic socialist, or at least she was. I'm not sure if she is now, but she was. Just to name a couple of people that have these beliefs. They want fairness for everybody, not just the select few. And I know some of you MAGAs may be watching this right now and you're saying, well, if you love Norway so much, why don't you move there? You know, if I could afford to, I probably would. But here's the thing. I have a heart for everybody, including a lot of you, because all you MAGAs aren't the elite class. All of you MAGAs, a lot of you MAGAs, in fact, a lot of the people that are going to be injured by Trump's policy live in states that voted heavily for Trump. It's in states like South Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, the South, basically, that is targeted when the ACA subsidies run out. Your health insurance is going to double, triple, or maybe quadruple, depending the size of your family. We're fighting for you too, dummies. So, is Zoran Mamdani a communist? No, he is not. But he is, as he stated, a democratic socialist. Now, why? Why is socialism the boogeyman? Why do they always talk bad about socialism? Why did Donald Trump have an ad with socialism supposing to be the devil and he's standing in front of it, and the caption says, "I am the only thing standing between you and socialism"? Here's why. If you were making so much money at the expense of everybody else in order to afford your own spaceship, would you endorse socialism? Of course not. You're going to advocate for capitalism because capitalism is what got you rich and got you that spaceship in the very first place. Listen, capitalists think like this: socialism is their enemy. And since they have the power to control and manipulate the media, they're going to use that power to their advantage. Why? Because if we did change to a democratic socialist society, your CEO pay is going to get controlled. You're not just going to run out at will and buy every corporate jet that costs over $3 million or $4 or $5 or $7 million or $60 million or $100 million. You're just not going to do that at will anymore. You've got what you've got. You're still making profit. You can still leave. You never have to work a day, but let somebody else in America. If you got all the money and Americans are struggling, guess what? Americans aren't going to have money to buy your stuff. It's called supply and demand. Republicans have always swore by this culture of trickle down. The idea behind trickle down is that you have the producer and the consumer, and it should be a producer-based economy where if you take care of the producers, they'll create jobs and those people make money to buy their products. Not true. Because you have people that are working 1, 2, 3 jobs and still can't afford to buy the product. And the product can be car insurance, new car, hell, auto parts. I'm going to put off doing my brakes because I can't afford it. Rent, housing. It should be a consumer-based economy. That's the theory. Because if you're making sure the consumers make enough money and you're pricing fairly, as opposed to trying to suck it all up for yourself, then the consumers have money to buy your product and you still make a profit. You may not make as much as you've been making, but you still make a profit. So again, is Zoran Mamdani a communist? No. No. Is he a capitalist? No. Is he a state socialist? No. Why? Because he's not trying to advocate for one political party, and he's also not trying to own all the means of production, but he thinks that the government should contribute into it, should be a partial owner to control it. And I think he's right. I think he's right. Is he a democratic socialist? Yes, he is. And he's told you that. But democratic socialists believe in doing good for all the people, not just the silver spooned. I'm M. Carter Pierce, and this has been the Bonus Reel. Comment, like, subscribe, and share. Unless you're MAGA, because I just don't want to hear Trump's nonsense out of your face or your Trump supporting nonsense, because he's a pedophile. We all know it. And he's going down. And if you keep hanging with that fool, you're going down too. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on the Daily Reel.